Hi, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Bree. Today's video is going to be all the books I read in the month of June. I have a good stack here, and I'm just excited to talk to you about them because I actually had a lot of 5 stars this month. I did a specific reading vlog for Lalathon that is Kayla's channel membership reading challenge, what are those called? Readathons? Don't know why that was so hard. And it was all about reading her favorite books, and I picked ones that I know we tend to align on, so it was a good one, and I got a lot of 5 stars out of it. So I did think this is the best reading month I've had this year, and I'm really happy about it. So I think I'm going to talk to you about all the books based on the different reading vlogs. So first I'm going to start off with books I read that were not a part of a reading vlog that I just read on my own. So I had 4 that I did not read for a reading vlog, I just read on my own. And the first one, because I don't want to forget, I listened to this on audiobook. It's called The Annual Migration of Clouds by Premi Mohammed. I requested the ARC for the second book on NetGalley, and when I requested it, I thought it was the first book, and I started listening to it, and I was like, I'm missing something here. Turns out it was part of a series. So I went back and listened to the first one, which is The Annual Migration of Clouds. And unfortunately, I only gave this one a 3-star. It had a lot of potential. I think I just had to adjust my expectations, and I think I'm going to like the second book more. So from my understanding, we were going to follow a girl who gets accepted to this school, and we're in like a new world of the earth. So it's like post-apocalyptic society where people no longer have like technology and different things, and they live more like a community lifestyle. But there is these things called the domes where people live that kind of like were the rich people who got themselves out and have all these amenities and stuff, while regular people were like trapped outside of these domes. And there's like a school at the domes, and so this girl, our main girl, she wants to go there, and she gets accepted. And so I thought it was going to be about her journey there and her going to the school and learning about the school. The first book is literally just her deciding to go to the school and like grappling with that and talking to her mom and talking to her friends and just like learning about the world. So for me, it just wasn't the most interesting because I was really interested to learn about the school and the world, and we really get like an insular setting. So it's just like her and her mom and her friend, and just like truly like understanding this small community. There was just parts that I found like a little lagged. Like for a novella that was 4 hours, it just felt like it dragged a little bit for me. But I think that the concept is so interesting, and it has a lot to do with like climate and stuff, and like climate change and technology and like power dynamics. And I think this interesting like subset of like her people, they really value community versus like the dome is less community oriented. And so it's just very interesting to see like the different societies and how things would work out in a post-apocalyptic world. And I liked that it was not very like end of the world feeling, like we're already when the end of the world has happened and we're in a new way of living. So I liked that about it. But I already started the second book, and I think I'm going to enjoy it more just based on what I've gotten to it. So I will continue. It just wasn't my favorite start to a series. And then I read In the Market for Murder by T.E. Kinsey. This is the second in the Lady Hardcastle series. I started the first one last month, and I just really like it. It's a really fun, cozy historical mystery series. I think my favorite part of these books is just the back and forth between Lady Hardcastle and Flo, who is her like maid slash partner in crime. And they're really just more like friends, and it's really fun to see them like banter and figure out these mysteries because they both have like a Secret Service, almost not Secret Service, like spy backgrounds. It's just really fun. I really enjoy it. I think it's like a perfect kind of cozy historical mystery series, and I recommend listening to them on audiobook. I gave this one a 4, I want to say, or a 3.5. I've been waiting for the sun to come back out for a while, so we're just going to continue. I gave this one a 3.5. I think it was still fun. I just think sometimes with historical mysteries, the enjoyment for me goes down a little bit over the span of books, and like there has to be something specific in the book that really grabs me back in. So I really enjoyed this. I just think the mystery itself wasn't like the most interesting to me, and I'm hoping we get more where we get more of their like backstories, because that tends to be the books I like the most. But still very enjoyable, and I would definitely be continuing the series because it's a really fun historical fantasy cozy series. Next, I read Silver in the Wood by Emily Tesh. This is a little novella that is a romance, but it's also like got a lot of folklore in it. It's about a man who lives in the woods, and he can like work with the trees. There's a bunch of dryads, so they are like talking spirit trees. They have magic, and this new owner of the area around the woods comes, and he meets our main guy. What's his name? Tobias, and he strikes up a friendship with him, and there's like this thing that happens every summer during the summer festival where people go missing, and so we start to learn about that. And yeah, it's a romance, but it's not a romance. It's got a lot to it. It was darker than I thought. Like, I picked this up thinking it was gonna be cozy, and I wouldn't say it's cozy, but it's got this like really cool like fairy tale feel. Oh, there's the sun. It's got this very cool fairy tale feel that I think I really liked, paired with like the darkness of it and the moodiness of the forest. I think this would be perfect to read in fall. That's the word. This I think I gave a 3.5. It was almost a 4. I was going between like a 3.5 and a 4, and there's just like something about this that I wanted it to have a little bit more. I really enjoyed it, but I think if it had been like a little bit longer, because how long is this? Yeah, only 100 pages. I feel like if we had gotten like 50 more pages to just flesh out some things, I would have really loved it, because some of the characters fell like a little flat for me. And like the romance side of things, I just wanted it to be a little bit stronger to really fall in love with it. But I think the world that Emily Tush created was so interesting, and I really enjoyed it. And it's a male-male romance if you are looking for something like that. I thought it was well done. I just wanted a little bit more. I think if I read 1 and 2 together, because they do have an audiobook version that's like both of them together, maybe that would have made me feel like this was what I wanted. You know, if I read them back to back, it would have almost felt like a whole book. So either way, I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it. It was good. Then the last one, I don't really have much to say because we're so far in a series now that like it's hard for me to come up with things to say about these. But this is the 5th or 6th Deanna Raybourn. Oh, the library copy is coming apart. Yeah, so this is the 6th book in the Veronica Speedwell series. This one I think just wasn't as good to me as the last one, because I think the last one was a 5-star or 4.5, and this one just like was a more of a 3.5. But I think it's because we're at the point in the series where a lot of the big things have happened, and so you kind of just have a point in a long series like this where there's a little bit of a lull, and this felt like the lull book to me. But I'm excited to continue, and I liked it. It's still Veronica and Stoker, so I'm still having a great time with them, but I think I gave this 3.5. First vlog was where I just kind of picked up whatever I was in the mood for, and so I read these, and it was overall a really good reading vlog. I started with Gideon the 9th and read this just kind of on a whim. I really just wanted to pick this up, and I had found it at the half price, and so I got to it really quickly, and I'm so glad I did because I gave this 5 stars. This is lesbian necromancers in space, though I will say the lesbian part like isn't as prominent. It's just like who they are as characters, and I really like that. It was a very like queer normative society, and so I appreciated that about this story a lot. And we're following Gideon, who is at this like world where there's necromancers, and we're on different planets, and like this planet specifically is the 9th house, and the 9th house has necromancers, and she's like trying to leave because she just doesn't want to be there, and she gets wrapped up through Harrow, who is like the princess of this 9th house, to go with her to this other world and compete with other houses to ascend to like godhood, essentially, to fight with God. And there's a murder mystery that happens. It's really funny. I really love Gideon's like inside jokes and like the way she talks, and so I had a really good time with this. I gave it 5 stars. You'll be able to see full thoughts if you check out the reading vlog, so I won't go too in depth. And then I'll just talk about Harrow the 9th because I read this last in the series, but it just makes sense to talk about it with Gideon. This one was also 5 stars. People say it's confusing. It is confusing. More confusing than Gideon. Gideon, I think, is not that confusing. This one, though, confusing, but the payoff is worth it. Sorry, it's so shiny. The payoff is really worth it. I think that if you are along for the whole ride, it makes sense at the end, is all I'm gonna say. It won't make sense for a very long time, but it makes sense, and I really, really liked it. And I liked learning way more about Harrow, because the first one was really about Gideon, and now this one we get way more into Harrow's backstory and learn a lot about her, and I can't wait to continue. I definitely will be reading. It was supposed to be a trilogy, and now it's a quartet, so that one is supposed to come out like this year or next year, so I'm very excited, and I want to read the whole thing because this is like my new favorite sci-fi series. Then I read Goddess of the River, and this one was an anticipated release for me because I read Kaikei last year and loved it. This one ended up being 4 stars. I really liked it. It's about Ganga, the river Ganga. So Shiva ends up bringing her to Earth and trapping her as a river, and she ends up like doing something that he then curses her to live as immortal for a little bit. So then she has to watch her son grow up, and we see throughout the book as it gets closer and closer to this war. So we start off like decades before the war, and then like as the book continues, we get closer and closer to the war. And again, it's a look at motherhood. It's a look at like humanity and war and violence, and also just like motherhood, women's roles, and how you can like shape your child and impact them. And so it was really good. I just think it didn't have quite the spark that Kaiki had for me, but I still really like it, and I really love Vaishnavi Patel's like writing style. It's beautiful and really like sucks you in. So 4 stars for this one. So then I read The Wickwire Watch by Jacqueline Hagan. This is a self-published book that's a fantasy, like steampunky mystery, and it is really good. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I had like not real big expectations for this, and it really outdid what I thought it was going to do. It was really fun. We follow a young boy, Ink, and he gets himself into trouble. He's kind of like he steals and stuff like that, and he's an orphan, and he ends up stealing something he shouldn't, and he gets wrapped up in this whole mystery plot. There's these people called, what are they called? I can't remember what they're called, but there's this order of people that did a really bad thing back in the day and killed a bunch of like magic users, and so they're outlawed, and anytime someone is found being part of this group, they're killed, and he ends up getting involved in them, and we learn more about like the magic world and what's really going on, and it's got a lot of different fun elements to it. There's like a city in the sky that's floating and can like move to different areas, and that's really fun, and I just really enjoyed getting to know this world and this mystery. Like it was just really intriguing. So I gave it 4 stars, and I'm very happy I read it and gave it a try because I'm really learning more about the self-published world, and that's been really fun. Next reading vlog was for Lalathon, and this is where I got my 5 stars. So we'll start with The Husbands. This is about a woman who goes up into an attic. No, when a husband goes up into the attic, a new one comes down. So like one day she comes home and finds a husband just there, and she's never had one before. And he goes up into the attic, and then a new one comes down. So she starts to like cycle through husbands until she can find like the perfect one. And it's about kind of like the culture of like finding the perfect one, and is there a perfect person out there, and like the dating apps and like swiping to, you know, find the perfect person, that kind of thing. And it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. It was a really strong like literary fiction, fun, kind of speculative book, but I just wanted a little more from like friendship side. It felt like I liked Lauren as a main character, but I just wanted like something more, some more connection to the book. Then I read Jamila Green Ruins Everything by Zarka Nawaz. This is a satire that is like a literary fiction kind of mystery sort of thing. Ridiculous, over the top, so fun though. It's about Jamila who gets herself wrapped up in this like terrorist plot because she's trying to like get God to let her book become a bestseller, and to do that she like meets with a homeless person, and then her and the mom get like wrapped up in this whole thing, and it's very funny and interesting and like has a lot of commentary, but it's a satire, so it does it in just like a darkly funny way, and it really worked for me, and I just had a great time. So this was 5 stars. Then we have Notes on an Execution by Dania Kafka. This is a literary fiction that is looking at a serial killer, and we have a countdown from 12 hours before he is on death row and killed, and we're going until 0 essentially. We're following him, but it's always told in like a you, so it's like you go down the hall and you do this, and you get pieces of his life, but it's always through a you perspective, and then you're also getting women affected by what he's done. It's very powerful, and I think the choice to have the you as a way you read his perspective, I think was a really good one, and it just really like put you in the shoes of like someone on death row as well. And there's a lot of talk about the justice system in the US, and also like serial killers and the sensationalism of serial killers. So it was really good. I gave it 5 stars. And then finally we have The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. This one I don't want to tell you like hardly anything about it. It's basically a woman who has a clone, and she works on clones for a living, and that's all you really need to know. But it is like a sci-fi mystery, and it was really good. I was not expecting it to go where it did, and I had a lot of fun with it. It was a thriller, and yeah, just it was really good. I don't know if it's gonna work for everyone, but it really worked for me and like what I was looking for in this kind of book. So if you have any like more recommendations for like this kind of sci-fi thriller, I would like to know, because I really liked it and it was 5 stars. And I think if you're gonna go into reading it, don't read the inside flap. Then final reading vlog. I have 5 books to talk to you about. So 2 of them I have on audiobooks. I'll start with those. So I have The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst, which is a cozy fantasy romance, and it is on NetGalley, so it should be coming out soon. I'll leave the timestamp. I'll have the date up here for you. And I read this for a summer reading vlog where I was trying to read summer recommendations to give you, and this one I think is a really good one for summer. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I think it was really well done. I liked the romance, but I think the romance was actually the weakest part of it all. I wanted it to be stronger, and I think that the cozy fantasy side was really fleshed out, and I really liked that. And I almost wish she went more with the romance or scaled it back and went harder with the cozy fantasy, because I think sometimes the half and half makes it so like one side wasn't strong enough for me, and I felt like we didn't get to know our main love interest enough for me to like really love it. So I gave that one 4 stars. Then we have Dragon Fruit, which is a YA Pacific Islander cozier fantasy. Like, it's not cozy. Some things happen and there's like animal deaths and stuff like that, but the overall like vibe of it was just kind of like sweet. I don't know. It felt cozy to me. I think for like some younger readers and stuff, it's not going to necessarily feel cozy, but I gave this one 4 stars as well. We're following a young girl who is coming back home for some reasons. She doesn't necessarily want to, but her and her father, like, her father did something bad when she was younger and she fled with him, and now she's finally back after like 10 years. She has to help the prince find this dragon fruit to help save the queen, and they had a friendship back in the day, so there's a little bit of a romance there, but everything is very just like sweet. It's definitely like a younger feeling YA. Like, there's romance, but don't expect it to have like the new adult feel where you have like a lot of steamy scenes or anything like that. It is definitely just like a slow burn, more of like a friendship story, and it's just so sweet. There's animal companions. There was a lot to love about it. I think if you were thinking about picking it up and you like YA, I would give it a shot. It was really good. It kind of reminded me in the vein of Alat's Away, though maybe read like slightly older, but both of those I loved, so I would highly recommend. Then I added this one, but this one was actually a DNF. I DNF'd it at 40%, 50%. I can't remember. But it wasn't for me. It was boring is really all I have. I talk more about it in the video, but this was a DNF. Then we have Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones. This is a horror novella that's a slasher where we follow a group of kids and they do like one last prank on their friend, and it goes wrong and it involves a mannequin. Now the mannequin may be killing all of them. So it was good. I think I ended up on a 3.5. I think that the slashers that Stephen Graham Jones does just aren't for me quite as much, which he tends to do, but like The Only Good Indians really worked for me. I gave it 4 stars. The My Heart is a Chainsaw, I ended up giving 3 stars. There's something sometimes about the way he writes slashers in a certain character's head. It just like loses me a little bit. And so I liked it, but I wasn't blown away by it. And I think what it was doing was interesting, but I don't think the ending was satisfying enough for me to fully get it. So I gave it 3.5. I would recommend if you like slashers, and you're looking for something quick in a novella, like I would give it a try. I'm not the biggest slasher fan. Then finally we have Island Witch by Amanda Giattisa. This is a historical horror thriller. I think it's considered a horror fantasy. It's set in 19th century Sri Lanka, and we're following Amara as she is kind of like, she doesn't have a lot of friends in the town and everything because her dad is a demon priest, and it's at a time where Christianity is really taking over because the British have occupied Sri Lanka and India, and so the old practices are kind of being pushed out. So her dad and her mom are kind of like looked down upon in society, even though people still use their services sometimes. They have a lot of hardship happening. They're like trying to make ends meet, and so Amara is just really trapped, and it's about her, and there's these killings happening in town with men that are just being killed in the woods and like mauled by something, but no one knows what it is, and they start to think that her family's involved because they think it's like her being a witch and like killing these men. So she's trying to figure out what's happening. She also has just like something she's struggling with internally, so you're seeing her go through all that. There's a lot of trigger warnings in this. It's very dark, and overall I gave it a 4 star. I would definitely read more from her, and I'm excited to see more of what she does, especially in like the horror or thriller route, because I think she really paints a vivid picture. And the one thing I loved about this was the atmosphere. It feels a lot like Mexican Gothic, or one of those are the Hacienda or the Vampires of El Norte. It has that same like eerie atmosphere in like a historical setting that I really liked, but I just think some of the pacing and choices weren't my favorite. So the pacing could have like, it was a little slow where a lot of the book nothing really happened and I wanted a little bit more. But then finally the like choice at the end of like the reveals, this type of story isn't necessarily my favorite to read. So there's that. I would definitely look up trigger warnings though, because this book it's a lot and there's stuff like on page. So if you have sensitivities to certain things, I would look up trigger warnings, but overall it was really good. I gave it 4 stars. So there you go. There are all the books I read in the month of June. Like I said, I had a really good reading month. Seems 4-star is like my thing this year, which is good. Like those are bad books. They're books that I enjoy and would highly recommend, but it's just, I'm very happy that I got 5 stars in this. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars in this month, and that's like the best I've done all year. So very happy. But thank you for watching. If you want to leave any of like the star emojis down below, I would love it if you made it to the end. And just thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.